Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new episode of the Shuffle Pod. We are now on episode number 16, and we got another special guest on today's episode. We got Alex Schemanske. What's up, Alex?
Not much. Just chilling after Warsaw, adjusting to time zones. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So if y'all don't know, Alex did get second place at Warsaw. He was playing the Giratina Lost Box deck, ended up playing in the finals against Pedro Torres, and unfortunately ended up losing to a pretty heartbreaking Roxanne. I thought Roxanne was a lie, but I guess it turned out.
She might be telling the truth like 1 out of 100 times, and it's like you can just never assume, right? You just never assume. Yeah, but that was one of the most entertaining matches, like match sets I have ever seen. I mean, those games were absolutely insane. Like, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it was very close. It's unfortunate that the Roxanne had happened. And I mean, watching the game, Alex, you played really well against Pedro because your deck has Giratina, but you do have all the Lost Box cards, right? You had the Greninja, the Crams, you had the Snorlax, which is really good against like Sableye. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah. It's unfortunate the Roxanne happened. That's twice now where we've had a Shuffle Squad member lose in the finals of a major regionals to a very good European player.
I know, it's Charizard. I think it's a Charizard thing.
Yeah, I think so. That's the third regionals Charizard has won now, actually, which is pretty insane.
And Alex, I have to say, I don't think that I have laughed as hard as I did in a long time when I saw you retweet that PokeStats tweet saying that there are 5 North American players with 6 or more regional top 8 appearances without a win. Then Alex was listed as 10 as of today. And Alex had retweeted it and said, now that's a PokeStat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, technically I won 2 regionals, but seniors.
Yeah. And Players' Cup.
But still,
You're a
it
Players'
counts.
Cup champion.
Right.
And, you know, you won the Players' Cup, and you won the Players' Cup Invitational. So,
right.
Yeah, that's gotta count for something, too.
And you are number 1 in North America currently. And number 3, I think number 3 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just pretty
That's
impressive.
Pretty insane.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very awesome. So big congrats. And I think before we kind of get into this episode, we do want to talk a little bit about Silver Tempest. Of course, Silver Tempest is now out on PTCGO. So we do want to talk about all the new Silver Tempest stuffs and how the meta is looking, because there's been some pretty crazy developments in the meta since Tempest has been out. There's been a lot of interesting decks that have like been popping up in the woodworks. And like, I think there's like 3 of them that I think are going to be pretty juicy to talk about. And we also want to talk about TCG Live. The beta is now out globally. It is still in the beta. It doesn't mean that TCGO is going to be shutting down tomorrow. It just means the beta is now accessible to everybody. So we want to maybe talk about the beta a little bit and see how that is all going too. But before we get into this episode, of course, we got to do our weekly roundup. So we'll start off with Lindsay. How has your week been?
My week has been equally insane and equally the same that it has been the last few weeks or so. Just been working all week. But I actually started working on this project. So if a lot of y'all don't know, I'm like a big collector as well. So I have been working on this little project. It's currently not complete, nor is it's also falling apart. Nor is it finished. I'm still waiting on a few cards in the mail. However, I thought of this idea to collect, and I got these really awesome little like frame things that are currently, it's not like secured in because I don't have all the cards in there yet, but I decided to collect every single like style of energy that has been printed. And so like Psychic and Ghost Pokemon growing up were always my favorite. So I am choosing Psychic energy. So I have collected each type of energy, each style of energy, I should say. And but what I mean by that is like it's not every single set in Pokemon, but like for example, how Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike, they have the same type of like the basic energy looks the same.
Yep.
Basically collecting those. Turns out I'm not doing the Japanese ones. So American ones, if we're not talking about a League Cup promos or like those extra like promo stuff, there are 27. As of today, there's been 27 like basic psychic energies. So it's been kind of neat going through and collecting those and like seeing like what sets they're from. So that's actually that's something interesting that I've been doing. last little bit. And all the cards are officially ordered. Like, I have them all ordered. They're all, I think, like in transit to me. So hopefully I'll get this done like this weekend. LDF, how about you?
Well, I've been testing a lot of Silver Tempest decks, obviously, but I guess kind of going on the topic of collecting. I actually went on a bit of a shopping spree today at the mall. So I'm a huge collector of vinyls. So I went and picked up this today.
You went shopping.
I went shopping. I did a little bit of Christmas shopping for myself.
Self-care.
I picked up a new vinyl today. Picked up the future vinyl of his album I Never Liked You, and then we're on the top of big collecting. I ended up picking up these bad boys, Migos Funko Pops.
Whoa!
Which unfortunately were not cheap because Takeoff kind of like skyrocketed in value. But I picked up the Migos Funkos, and obviously I'm a huge Migos fan, so I had to get the Migos Funko Pops. They're pretty sick, of course.
Oh my
Takeoff.
gosh!
Yeah, Takeoff is the big one you want. They weren't cheap, and they were hard to get for a good deal because a lot of people were like, trying to sell them for high value, but I was able to pick them up for a good price, and I'm glad I did because I never had them before. And actually, I've seen them around in the stores plenty of times. I never picked them up, and then long and behold, they became super rare and expensive overnight because of what happened with Takeoff. But I just wanted to show that off, my little collection. I have a lot more Funkos over there. I'm actually trying to organize
Oh
them
my
and
gosh.
maybe build like a shelf or something. I have a lot of
Look at all
Funko
your
Pops.
Funkos.
There's so many of them. I have a lot of Marvel and Walking Dead ones. Yeah, you have like a big wall of them too behind you.
Wait, they make Walking Dead Funkos?
Yeah, they do. I have a lot of them.
Crazy.
Yeah, I have like every Negan Funko, a bunch of like Daryl ones. I have a lot of characters. Yeah.
I know I've shown you these before. These are actually by the Funko company. Mm-hmm. Like these are by Funko, but I have these like Walking Dead bobbleheads. I'm Michonne and Daryl. These are from like 2012.
Yeah, those are old. Yeah, those are like a decade old now. I wonder how much.
Literally, these are from 2012. They're probably probably nothing.
Probably not. I don't know. That's kind of cool though. That is kind of cool. Actually, the Walking Dead's final season is coming up this Sunday. Like the final episode is this Sunday.
That is so crazy.
It's crazy.
So I sent this to LDF because him and I talk about how much we love Walking Dead, right? So one of my old roommates, he got into acting and he's doing a bunch of like acting stuff now, and he was actually on, I guess, that one. I don't know if he was on just one episode, but he's like kind of in like the finale like thing. So he's like in those episodes.
Yeah, you sent me the picture. Actually, I recognized the actor from the episode. I think it was the second last episode that he was in.
That's so sick.
It is sick. It makes sense. I mean, The Walking Dead is filmed in Atlanta. So it makes sense that it kind of lines up like that. It's kind of cool, though, that did happen. So somebody who's been in The Walking Dead. That's pretty crazy. But of course, I think the big thing today we want to talk about. Alex, how has your week been? Because I know you've had a pretty crazy week.
Yeah, my week's been exhausting, honestly. I spent my 30-hour Monday entirely in an airport, or I guess like 4 airports. So just a lot of traveling. And got back in. Panic put in Silver Tempest codes because I had coaching the next day. I'm like, probably should do this. Just very exhausting. I'm getting around to testing for Brazil, but not quite there yet.
Yeah. Brazil, LAIC is what, like next weekend, I think?
It's next week.
Yeah. And the Silver Tempest meta has been kind of crazy so far with the amount of like random decks that have been winning tournaments has just been mental. And I'm sure we will talk about all of that when we get to there because there's some pretty spicy decks that are pretty popular right now in the meta.
So don't forget, during the month of November, we are doing a giveaway. So anyone who is subscribed to us on the YouTube channel will be entered to win. So we're announcing that winner on December 1st. We're giving away a Shuffle Squad t-shirt and 100 PTCGO codes if you live in North America. However, due to shipping limitations outside of North America, we are only going to be giving away 200 PTCGO codes, but that is so many codes that you can win. So if you want to increase your chance of winning, then you can also send a question to the podcast at theshufflesquad.com. That way you can get your question answered on the Shuffle Pod. How was that performance, you guys?
That was good.
Okay, so, and with the Silver Tempest set coming out, if you guys want to get cards, make sure you go to atlascollectibles.com because LDF, how many percents can we save?
12%, and that's a lot.
That is TSS 12. That'll save you 12% on your entire order. And if you want to get some codes, if you go to ptcgostore.com, use TSS5, you save yourself 5% on your order, and it directly helps us at the Shuffle Squad. That way we can keep coming at you with this fire content. So we'll go ahead and guess that Pokemon. So I have the Pokemon today. So you guys all know how this works. This isn't our first one, not our first rodeo here. So if you go to pokeexword.com, they have the Guess That Pokemon section now on their website. They upload the new puzzles every single day, and you can share your results to Twitter and see how much better than LDF and I are at Guess That Pokemon than you are. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But
you'll never be able to beat our scores.
Yeah.
I bet you can.
And if you follow them on Twitter as well, they also give away a bunch of PTCGO codes. So with that being said, I have a Pokemon for you too. It is going to be 7 letters. And your hint, you're welcome, LDF, it is from Generation 4.
Okay.
Gen 4.
Gen 4, 7 letters. All right, let me see. I got one Pokemon in my mind. Let's see.
If you get it, I'm never playing this again.
The one that I thought of was 8 letters. So 7 letters, Gen 4.
Gen 4, 7 letters.
That's 8 letters again. Okay.
It is kind of awkward. It's kind of like Wordle, right? Like you have to get kind of lucky to get it on your first guess. So we'll go ahead. We can move to the second hint.
I'll do a quick guess.
No?
Yeah, I'll do a quick guess. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do a quick guess real quick. Is it Weavile?
Nope.
No. Okay. I think that was 7 letters. Yeah, it's 7 letters.
So the second hint is going to be the Pokedex entry. So that entry is, it can dissolve toxins in the air to instantly transform ruined land into a lush field of flowers.
I know this one.
Yeah. I'll let you do it. I'll let you say it.
Yeah, it's Shaman.
It's Shaman.
Yeah.
It's Shaman.
Haven't had a good Shaman card in a while since one of them happened to get banned from Expanded. Shaman
Really?
EX. Yeah, Shaman EX. Yeah. Think of Dedenne, or think of Crobat, but you get to do it 4 times a turn with Scoop Up Net.
Ew.
Yeah, it was pretty disgusting. It had to get banned.
PokeXword, the best place to get your fill of Pokemon-inspired puzzles. New puzzles are posted every day, and they recently launched a new Guess That Pokemon puzzle, which is a ton of fun to play. Go check them out at pokeexword.com and be sure to follow them on Twitter for your chance to win a ton of PTCGO codes every month.
So yeah, Pokemon TCG Live is now out worldwide for the beta. Now, we don't yet have an official release date for PTCGO's shutdown and when Live fully releases. And actually, what's hilarious is the beta came out and it was broken on release. Which is
it's
just
bugged?
Hilarious. It was bugged, yeah. It came out, people found ways to get infinite packs, and I'm pretty sure Forest Seal Stone is still bugged on the game too, I think. I know it was bugged. Yeah. I think it still might be bugged, yeah. Because I know it's bugged on TCGO too, which is unfortunate.
Both of the stones are, actually. Both stones are. I think they're in reverse. Yeah. It's the Forest Seal Stone should work on their path, and then Zapdos should not be able to use the whatever Steel Stone. The earthen one.
The earthen one? Well, I think Zapdos
I'm pretty
can
sure
use
it can.
No,
yeah, it can.
I was told that it actually can't because of the word. They could have been trolling me, but because of the actual wording of Zapdos' ability, it says this Pokemon's attacks. And it would be the same thing of why Forest Seal Stone can work under Path, because it's not the Pokemon's ability, it's the tool's ability.
I want to say there was a Japanese ruling that said it could, so...
Is it because I know that the translation,
because
I know that the Japanese translation technically makes it okay. It's the attacks that this Pokemon uses or something like that.
Japanese translation always takes precedence.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that's good to know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go have a conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting because Zapdos should theoretically work under it.
I mean, it does that's what I thought too, but. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess they could have been trolling me. Who knows?
Could have been a troll, or maybe they just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I feel like I'm gullible for things like that.
I mean, it's a very interesting interaction, though. It turns that Zapdos and that stone from kind of bad to low-key kind of insane. If that actually the interaction actually works. So Yeah, I'm not sure then. But yeah,
But
with Pokemon,
with live though, like it, like do we to migrate or not to migrate? Like what?
well, yeah. I'm definitely going with no too. It is worth it to play and try it out. Obviously, I think no matter what, you should still play and try it out because this is going to be
It's in the beta. It's going to help with the beta.
yeah, and this is going to be the future of the Pokemon trading card game online environment, right? In the future, we won't have PTCGO, so you might as well play the game, get a feel for it, and see how you like it. Again, I've ranted about it tons of times. We've already done a couple episodes where I've kind of talked about it and gave my opinions and thoughts on it. I know that the new update they did a while back with changing the game board layout and everything and speeding up the animations and all that cool stuff definitely was a big positive. There's still a lot of issues with the game. I will say, though, I think they give you like a free Lugia, like they give you like a pretty easy like amount of Lugias when you sign up, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Not
and that's
too
pretty
bad.
good. Yeah, because Lugia is super expensive right now. It is going to cost you probably upwards of 200 plus packs to get yourself a 4-3 line of Lugia on TCGO. And you go on live, you just get like a 2-2 line, I think, for free. So it's pretty nice. Live's main selling point, yeah, its gameplay might not be as good as TCGO, but it's more free to play. And you get to play all the new cards a lot easier than it would take on TCGO, which is kind of the big takeaway of that. So, but yeah, do you have any opinions on live at all, Alex? I'm be curious to hear.
I mean, I'm not migrating because I accidentally qualified for the team challenge, so I can't.
Yeah,
But
same here.
I wouldn't migrate anyways, but I would definitely start an account. You can get free rewards and then migrate once PCGO sunsets. So you might as well get the rewards that are going to be limited in quantity. Like play the game, just don't migrate.
Exactly. Yeah. You can like play the game, definitely try it out, get a feel for it. You get some of the rewards, but yeah, don't migrate because if you migrate, you can't go back. And especially if you're in the team challenge, like you said, like I also qualify for the team challenge. I can't if I migrate, then I can't play in it. So it's a bit of a mess if you do that. So yeah, I would say not migrate. You can definitely still play the game without migrating and get a feel for it. You can kind of build up your account for when you're ready to migrate. So it kind of works out evenly that way. So yeah, I would definitely say not migrate, but definitely give it a try because the Pokemon community, TCG, TPCI, they need your feedback on this client. They need your feedback. Like they've taken the feedback pretty well, I would say. We as a content creator community did give it a pretty harsh criticism at first. Like, of course, there was a lot of big videos that came out trashing it, and most of us content creators kind of spoke out against it. But they kind of did take that advice, and they took it to heart, and I do feel like they really have been working their best to try to improve it. There's still a long way to go. I think live is far from perfect. There's still a lot that's got to be done with it, but they are listening and they are definitely doing a good job trying to improve it the best they can. And hopefully the future is bright with TCG Live now that the beta's out and everybody gets access to it and you don't gotta use no sneaky VPNs anymore. So
No more breaking the law for Pokemon. We've had enough.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alex, you got second place at Warsaw this past weekend. So do you kind of want to run us through your run and why you chose Giratina and everything?
Okay, so I was packing light, so I decided I'm just gonna build a couple decks, bring them, no extra cards. So what I ended up doing is building Giratina, building Lost Box, bringing I think it was like 10 extra cards. So I brought 130 cards to Warsaw, and I was like, I'm going to play one of these decks. I'm going to play like 2 games on Friday after we get there. His time zone change murdered my sleep schedule. I didn't really feel like testing. And I had been really busy with school before Warsaw, and so I kind of just checked out of the format. So I copied Nico Alabas's deck, made a few changes, and then on Friday I was like, okay, Giratina feels good. Actually, okay, really, Friday, Giratina felt terrible. I bricked like every other game. Yeah. I was just solitaring. It was just bad. So I was like, Lost Box really didn't do well for me in wherever the last American regional was. I honestly can't remember. So I was like, I'll just play Giratina. I don't care. I haven't played any games with this list. I've just solitaried. And obviously it worked out, but don't do that. It's not great. I learned a lot of things on the fly during the event. I was like, maybe I shouldn't make these misplays after game 1.
Yeah, I mean, Giratina's definitely a harder deck to pilot than a lot of the decks that we had in the Lost Origin format for sure. And there's a lot of micro decisions you got to make. Obviously, a big one is when you're using Comfy and Colress, like what cards do you keep, what do you get rid of? And honestly, that can make or break a scenario in a match. So the fact that you did like that while they got second with it is just kind of insane, and it's awesome to see, especially when you said you didn't have as much testing with it, and even when you did try it, it just didn't work very well for you, just kind of bricked and stuff. Yeah, because I'm kind
Yeah.
of that way too. Like when I play a deck to a tournament, a lot of the time don't test with it. I just kind of learn things on the fly, which I think is like good knowledge to have. Like learning things as you go on and like improvising. I'm good at that. So I definitely kind of understand like the feel of that, like playing a deck like fresh in a tournament like that, and just kind of learning things on the fly and like learning what you're doing in these different scenarios, so you know what to do in the next match. So, but that's
And
awesome.
honestly,
And
you might not
yeah.
even overthink it. Like if you're not sitting there like, man, I practiced this matchup 100 times, and like it's like
Right.
like you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna play these cards.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's really funny. Like, two of my regionals files are doing just that. Like,
Hmm.
I copied Rush's art and was like, okay, I'll just play it. And then my IC top 8, I played 0 games of the list, but it was Ballswell, so it's like, whatever. Like, I have a history of doing things like this and
Yeah.
doing well. It's just very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, if
It's
it works for
interesting.
you, it works for
It
you.
works.
Yeah, you know, like a lot of people put in, hours upon hours of testing for a tournament, and then sometimes you can just go to a tournament, not really know the matchups and how the deck really plays, and then when you actually play it, you kind of get a feel for it, and you kind of just learn on the spot and improvise, and that's like something that does work for a lot of people. It's something that might be like, why would you ever want to do that? But it is true. You can be in a situation where you might have to overthink, especially with a deck like Giratina, where there's so many micro decisions you got to make and so many things you have to think about in a matchup, where like those decisions you can overthink very easily, and then it ends up biting you later on in the game.
Yeah, and I want to talk about like some of the text that you added, Alex. Like, because there's a Giratina list that I've seen plenty that aren't running the Snorlax, and I personally think the Snorlax is a great addition. I mean, it's kind of a heavy hitter as well. I mean, it just one shots Crobats and. But I kind of want you to convince me of Zigzagoon, because I just from like my personal experience playing, I feel like I've needed Manaphy so much more.
Mhm. Okay, so Zigzagoon, it was just in the deck I copied, so I just like didn't even question it. I hadn't looked at many Giratina lists, so I was like, yeah, whatever. But during the event, it's really good in the Reggie, so you take the first prize with Cram.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously no Manaphy makes the Reggie matchup worse, but I didn't think about that. And just like I think it was actually on one of my stream games against Arceus Giratina. I actually expected a ton of that. One play where you can just completely swing the game is when you boss a Manaphy and swing for 160 with Shred, and later you go Zigzagoon Ping, knockout, take another knockout. That is just like I was super over prepped for Arceus plus Radiant Gardevoir plus Dragon V Star. So
Right.
like Goon fixes so much math on that with big charms and a Gardevoir, just like so it was just like I didn't even question it. It was just good. It just lets you play the game a little like more loose, and you can just completely shift momentum whenever you want. Like Zigzagoon's always just been a card I like, and it skips Roxanne turns sometimes. It's just good.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes sense. I do have to ask,
I
did
agree.
you get off any Thornton plays?
Hmm.
Oh yeah, Thornton was amazing. Like even just Thorntoning a random Cramorant in play, like I removed extra confies from play when I was gonna at risk of Greninja. Like that's part of why I felt okay with no Manaphy is because even if you have to early Thornton, it's still fine. Like if you only leave one confi in play, you're not at risk. And just like Thornton into Giratina was very good. Like that's why I was comfortable playing two Giratina V. Uh, Honestly, if I'd brought a third Giratina V, I probably would have played it, but I didn't. So I just didn't bother. It was just Thorn's kind of a card that I always just it fits how I play the deck. Like I play into things that just checkmate opponents without them knowing it, I think is the way to say it.
Yes. and there's actually a lot of Thornton haters out there, believe it or not. But I have been playing Thornton, one, in like almost every deck that I've been playing. But two, I think it is so good in Giratina because your board state can look like you are just absolutely screwed. You can look like you are just gonna. You can make it look like you're about to get just absolutely bodied. You just Thornton the snore, like Thornton, like whatever the comfy into a Giratina, Mirage Gate, throw down the V-Star, and you can like Lost Impact if you haven't used it yet. Or whatever, Lost Star Requiem.
Yeah.
That one. Like, I feel like I've done that so many times where it's just like, this is a power that I didn't know I needed, but I've always wanted.
Exactly. Like, multiple times during the event, my opponents just realized that it was about to happen. I even had an opponent where like, does Thornton work on the active Pokemon? Because they didn't know. So I picked up my hand and I like read the card to them. I'm like, yep, it works.
You're like, yep, it works, Thornton.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was just very cool. Just checkmate without like you said, Giratina's board state can look absolutely terrible.
It can look terrible.
You could just Lumineon for Thornton, Mirage Gate, good game. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a card that scares me. Every time I've played against Giratina, like, it's always something that I think about. Like, do they play the Thornton? I've played against people without the Thornton, and then after the game, I'm like, did you play a Thornton? I always ask that when I play against Giratina, because I really want to know if they played Thornton, because it's actually, like, very terrifying to play against. You legit think that you have game on board, or they're just like, oh, they got nothing going for them. I'm definitely winning this game, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, Thornton out of nowhere, and then it's like, oh. You know what I mean? So it's a card that does scare me. And it's just a low-key, just insane card in Giratina. It might even be one of the best cards in the Giratina deck in general. Like, apart from
that's a hot take.
I mean, it creates
I agree. Don't get me wrong. But I've had people be like, you're insane. Like, Thornton is... I think I agree with you, Alex, though. I think it's the fact that, like, you can just, like, sit there with, like, 3 cards in your hand, and you can have, like, either Lumineon or Thornton, Mirage Gate, the V-Star, and you're good to go, and you're just sitting there like
you're just
looking like you have nothing. Like
yeah.
I've even Thorntoned into a what's oh my gosh, Drapion.
Yeah, that's another big
like,
one.
Like they were able to knock me out, and like luckily didn't get Lost City, so it was in the discard pile, and I was able to Thornton the next turn. So it's I love it.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best cards in the deck. Well, okay, so Alex, I guess before we kind of move on, what would you say was like your hardest matchup with the Giratina deck?
Hardest matchup that I played, or what is the actual hardest matchup?
Yeah, I'd say like probably both. Like which matchup were you not wanting to play against, and then which one did you play against throughout the run that was a little bit more challenging?
All right. So I didn't want to play against Reggie's. I didn't play against Reggie's, despite how huge it was. So I got really lucky on that.
Yeah.
Just like, that matchup's not great. I can win it. It's not worth.
It's a pain.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And probably the hardest matchup that I actually did hit was Lost Box in the finals. That matchup's not supposed to be good. And the fact that I even took it into the spot where, like, Roxanne ended my game twice, pretty amazing, honestly. Like, I didn't expect to win that finals. And I obviously didn't, but I could have.
You were close, and it really like came down to the Roxanne. If you had a better hand off the Roxanne, you had the lead on Pedro. You definitely could have won that game. So it's unfortunate, but it was still a really good run and kind of demonstrated, I guess, like to a lot of people, like how you can deal with a hard matchup for a deck like Giratina, especially going into Silver Tempest, where Giratina is still arguably a top tier deck because it's still Giratina. It doesn't really gain anything in Silver Tempest. It's just still a good deck that just kind of naturally is good against a lot of the other decks that Silver Tempest kind of are. So that deck's coming out of Silver Tempest, you know what I'm saying? So still a pretty good deck. And I guess, while we're on the topic of Silver Tempest, we can talk about the Silver Tempest meta. So, of course, the set has been out for like about a week now on PTCGO. And we've already seen a lot of crazy decks from Silver Tempest, of course. Lugia V-Star is the big deck of the set. Everyone's on Lugia. It is one of the scariest decks in the format. It's a deck that just like when that deck goes first and they get like the turn 2 Archeops, it's just bananas. They just out of nowhere, quad powerful energy on a Lugia, just blow up your active. It's a very scary deck. It has so many options. It's very powerful, but there's been a lot of other revelations that have come out of Silver Tempest. We've seen, actually, I think in the past like few days, we've seen 3 different like rogue ideas win major online tournaments, which is just mental. So
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of more of a fan of the version that just uses like the Lugias, like you have like the Reggie for the Mew and the Kira matchup, and then just using it like the Dunsparce, Charon's Care, almost kind of like when Arceus first came out, everyone's trying to pair it with everything, but like maybe it's just better and more consistent on its own.
yeah.
But that's just kind of been what I've seen so far. What about you guys?
Yeah, it's in the version, like, I've played both the Aurora and the colorless version. I've really liked the colorless version. I think the regenerative energy is actually a huge tech that needs to like be in most lists at this point. It swings a lot of just of the Lost Zone matchups. And just it's so much more consistent as a deck without the Aurora energies. Like, I'm not trying to get 5 colored energies in play. It's just I
It is fun, but
it's fun. It's just like, wow, this is like a combo deck, and a lot of Lugialos aren't playing Switch cards right now, so like getting the Aurora attackers in play is still kind of rough. Like, you still have to pay retreat, which double turbo fine, but that adds up.
It does. Yeah, it can eat at you in the end of the game where you need that extra energy and you don't have it. And also, not playing many switches opens up the door for more control style archetypes to kind of pop up. I mean, we've seen that the amazing, the Cry of Destruction Evoltol, the one that discards up to 3 special energy, has started to make its way back in the format because Lugia struggles to deal with that Evoltol when they can just constantly discard all their energy and remove their resources. And Lugia is such a go fast, go hard type deck. They don't really accustom to all these different scenarios that can pop up where people counter Lugia through cards like Evoltol or taking advantage of the no switches in the deck.
yeah,
And
I definitely agree.
yeah. I think another cool thing is just kind of the amount of, I guess, rogue decks that have popped up over the past little bit. So there's been 3 tournaments three rogue decks have won 3 tournaments. So we have, I think, Arcanine Zapdos won an online tournament. May not have been a big one, but I do think, I do know actually, I think it did win an online tournament. And Arcanine Zapdos is a crazy deck. The whole idea is you go like Zapdos, get a bunch of energy in play, and then you move all the energy from your Zapdos to Arcanine, and then like turn 1, you can take a turn 1 knockout, and it's pretty mental. It's like a better version of the Sirfetch'd deck, basically. And that deck is actually still like doing okay. Like, it won a tournament, it could have been like a meme, but it's starting to like actually like have a bit of legs, which is crazy. I don't know how good the deck actually is, to be honest, but it doesn't seem like the worst deck to like ever blow up.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that deck?
It seems fine. I mean, I don't think it'll be ever tier 1, but
yeah, I agree.
It can have a run, just hit decks that it can beat. It's very cool. Just I'd be scared to play it to an actual event.
Yeah, it's definitely more of like a for fun deck that maybe can like snake out a couple wins here and there. Another rogue deck though that has been catching attention is the Zoroark box deck. Now this is one that I'm skeptical on.
Oh my gosh.
But it looks like Zorobox may finally be a legit deck. What are we thinking?
You know, I never played that Zoroark. Like I've never actually played it before. I've seen like LDF, I've seen you play it on live. I've seen like videos of you and other people play it. But I'd never played Zoroark before, right? So like I'm trying to play it the other night. Tell me why it took me way too long to get it into my head that you can't attach energy and then Phantom Transform. I mean, you can, but like it's gonna discard. Tell me why I had such a hard time like remembering that. You know how many times I did it? I did it like 6 times before I was like, you know what? we gotta change some stuff here.
Yeah,
like,
I think
that deck is good. It's just hard. It's hard to play. It's like you can't. There's been so many times where like I'm like, you shouldn't do this. By the way, kids, don't do this. Multitasking, like not paying attention to playing Pokemon, and like with Jolteon, it was fine, easy, boom, boom. But like with that deck, it's like, oops, I accidentally just like got rid of my last Zoroark when I actually needed to evolve. Like GG's. It's you get punished very hard for your misplays.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
deck that I think is like okay at best. I think the one issue is it's still like slow compared to like other single prize decks. One of the things about single prize decks in the past little bit, single prize decks have still like they've recovered some. There, there's been single prize decks that have recovered and have come back into the format, which is something that we didn't really have before. I think the thing is though, all the single prize decks that are good are just basic focus decks. Regis, Lost Box, even
Otherwise,
Lunatone Soul Rock.
it's a time thing at that point.
Yeah. And a stage 1 deck definitely would struggle a lot more because it's slower, and it's just weird how the format works for like even a stage 1 deck like Zork, where technically it can counter everything because there's enough stage 1s for like every scenario, but it's just like it's not an all basic deck. So it loses, like Zorobox immediately probably like takes a big L to like any other single prize matchup unless you can checkmate with Slowbro, right? And
Slow
it
roast,
also
cheesiest of cheese.
very cheese. If you're in a Zork mirror, that slow bro cheese is real. I like at that point, like it's just crazy. If you're in a slow bro checkmate scenario for both players. But the thing that makes a Zork deck good is that it gained a few new stage 1 Pokemon. The new Raichu does 140 damage if your opponent used a V-Star power. So if Palkia goes Star Portal, Lugia goes Summoning Star, Raichu does 140, and that times 2 is 280, which knocks out Lugia and Palkia in one hit. Now, obviously, you could play against somebody who, if you're playing against Palkia, a smart Palkia player will just not use Star Portal, but it still feels good. I mean, against Lugia, it's still good because Lugia's always going to do their V-Star power, no matter what.
They have to. Yeah, they have to.
So it walks right into Raichu. Another big card the Zork box has is the Radiant Jirachi, just kind of as like a cheese card. It can sometimes come in and take out like a Gudra or a Duraludon out of nowhere, and it's also a good like kind of opener. I've seen this before, and I've tried it myself in my like stage 1 decks I've tested, is you can open with the Jirachi, and you can like, you want to lead with it mainly because of its ability where it gets KO'd, you get like 3 cards in your hand, but you lead with it, but you can also sometimes get like early KOs out of nowhere. I played against a Blissey Miltank deck twice where I think I go second and I get like a turn 1 Jirachi, and I play the Glimwood Tangle, and I just immediately knock him out and get a 2 prize lead on my opponent. It's just a cheese card. I don't know if it's legit, but it's a funny card to have in the deck where it just sometimes can put early pressure on the opponent. It can cheese stuff out of nowhere. There's another stage 1 though, and that is Appleton. Now that's another Lugia counter that seems really cool. Appleton does 70 damage for each energy that your special energy your opponent has in play to your opponent's active. If you're playing against Lugia, they're just gonna go like Primal Turbo, put like 6 energy in play in 1 turn, and then Appleton just goes 70 times 6 and just destroys a Lugia off the face of the earth, and you just kind of loop it over and over.
Yeah, definitely. It's still one of those decks that I feel like has a really high ceiling. You do have to like play it. I mean, you could arguably say this for any deck, but you do have to play it like pretty perfectly.
Yeah.
And I just had such a hard time with like, stop attaching those freaking energies, because like I'm trying to attach energies to like get ahead of my attachments, be like, oh, like now I have a backup attacker in case I get Marnie, like I have the energy there, and then I'm like, oh great, like scoop.
Yeah.
I think the issue with Zork is its skill cap is way too high for how little reward it gives. Like it's not the best deck in format, and it never will be.
No.
It's kind of inconsistent, and if you have to play perfectly to get middling results, then it's not the greatest deck ever. Like you just can't justify that to some extent.
Too much work.
Yeah. Another thing that I think Zork struggles against in just Lost City, like your opponent could really they could just play a Lost City. Like you can go Mightyena against Mew. Like, okay, I got Mightyena, I'll just go Zork Mightyena twice, I win the game, and then it's like, okay, I'll go Lost City, there goes your Mightyena, you got no attackers to really deal with me, and I'm just gonna win the prize trade. And that's another thing that holds Zork back. It's, I guess, fun while it kind of lasts before people like maybe start teching for it, which I don't even know if it'll become a thing, but if people really start teching for Zork, then just falls off completely. It's not like Reggie, where Reggie is so good that it doesn't matter if people counter for it. Like if they play Lost City or Temple or Collapse Stadium, Reggie is always ready for that. But something like Zork, they can't afford to play like 2 Mightyena or like 2 Slowbro in their deck, or 2 Appletons or Raichus to counter like cards like Lost City, and it just doesn't have the space for that. Neither does it have really space for like Temple of Sinnoh either. I mean, Temple of Sinnoh body side deck, sometimes Temple of Sinnoh is like sometimes you just can't get rid of it, and then you can't attack, and then it's like I miss a turn of attacking, and it's a worse Reggie at that point because you're a stage 1 deck, not an all basic deck like Reggie's is. So
Right.
it just, in my opinion, it's almost like a worse Reggie deck, if I'm gonna kind of call it that. It's like a worse Reggie deck. But in terms of single prize decks that have been doing good, so the winner of the last late night tournament this Tuesday was a Rayquaza Amazing Rare Lost Box deck that had Rayquaza, it had Ice Cube, it had Zapdos. Of course, it just had it all, and it won the entire tournament. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's hilarious.
It is very hilarious.
I saw that. So I think that player has been playing that version of the deck for a couple weeks, actually, just like even pre Silver Tempest, because it didn't gain anything from Silver Tempest. It gained Lugia as a matchup. Yeah. Which, ironically, it somehow dragged itself up by gaining the best deck in format as a matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's a very legitimate deck as long as people don't like start hard like trying to beat it.
Yeah. I've played Amazing Rare Rayquaza with Lost Zone before, because obviously, since I try to cover the most craziest combos on my channel, I've played the Rayquaza deck before like it even blew up. And it's actually not bad. My list was really different. I didn't have like the Ice Cube or the Raikou. Like I was more focused on just like Rayquaza, Sableye, Cram, but the Rayquaza combo is kind of low-key good because you can just do like 320 out of nowhere, take a big knockout. You have explosive turns against VMAX Pokemon, and you one-shot a V-Star out of nowhere. It's very kind of like a single prize Giratina deck in a way, where you just have that like big blow-up attacker, something that Lost Zone decks didn't really have before. I mean, they had like the Charizard, but they didn't really have that like explosive Pokemon KO where like you can just, even in you're in a bad scenario, you can just blow up a big Pokemon with Rayquaza. Like Charizard can't do that, and that's something that really intrigues me. I don't, again, like you said, this deck could be legit. Actually, at my locals this past Friday, the player that won the tournament, that went 6-0, played a Lost Zone Raikou deck. So it was like basically like a similar concept where they had the Lost Zone package, but they played like multiple copies of Amazing Rare Raikou, and they ended up winning the tournament with it. And it's just kind of like, it's scary because Amazing Rares with the Mirage Gate engine seem like they actually do have potential. We don't know if Rayquaza's better than Raikou, or you want to try Zacian, or who knows, even like Kyogre might be better. But for sure, like Amazing Rare Lost Box decks seem pretty good. And I think Lost Box decks in general, like not just Amazing Rare, just like even straight Lost Box with Charizard or whatever you want to play it with, like you want to play it with the Ariados or Giratina. I think Lost Box is just still in a good spot. And it did gain that good matchup in Lugia. It just maybe has a bad matchup against like Vikavolt, and that's about it.
I think what has a good matchup against Vikavolt?
Quad Zapdos.
I feel like if it like pops off, then like sorry, you just kind of lose.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with Lost Box. I think that there's so many ways to play it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we get the next set, Crown Zenith, like 2 more Lost Box decks win an online tournament that are kind of crazy and out there, like this Rayquaza deck. Nobody would ever think Amazing Rare Rayquaza would win an online tournament. But Lost Box has so much room for potential that there's bound to be some kind of crazy Lost Box deck out there that will win more tournaments. And I might give this deck a try, honestly. I like the idea of it. I try to stay away from Lost Box decks for competitive settings other than for content, because they do require a little bit more like thought and kind of skill to pilot, I guess. It's not as brainless as like playing like Palkia or Arceus, or even Lugia is more brainless now than anything else. So it's like, it takes more skill, but I do think that these decks, even though they require more skill to pilot properly, they're still very scary, and they have a lot of like crazy checkmate plays and stuff. And I mean, Alex, you yourself, I think, really did pioneer the Lost Box deck before Torrid won Peoria with it. You know, you were playing the Cancel Cologne build that you won the late night with.
You won like 3 late nights with
I
it
did
or something.
2 late nights with the deck, yes.
Yeah.
And when I saw you
good.
were playing against the Lost Box decks, I was like, I feel like Alex has played Lost Box enough to like really know what to do.
Yes.
Yeah, he knows how to assess the situation. And I mean, that probably did help against Pedro in the finals, right?
Yes. Like, I think if I had ever drawn out of Roxanne, I outplayed the matchup to the point where, like, I would have won. So,
Yeah, you did a pretty good job playing around like a matchup like that. And since you've played it so much, you've won so many tournaments with it, you kind of just naturally knew how good the deck is.
Yeah, exactly.
You knew you knew the ins and outs. You can kind of pick your opponent's brain while you're playing against it, and that really does help quite a bit. And yeah, I think Lost Box is just really good. I think that this Lugia Cullis build that kind of has more counters to Lost Box with that regen energy, the Charon's Care, I do think that will definitely make a kind of big factor into Lost Box performance. But Lost Box, I think, has like an insanely good Aurora energy Lugia matchup. Because even though they have like the Raikou, which is maybe the scariest card in the matchup for you, you just kind of clean them up pretty easily, I would say. So
Yeah.
I definitely...
And you can...
Go on.
Go ahead. You can just
Yeah, I was
tech
gonna
Manaphy, like,
Yeah,
for the Raikou. It's not that bad.
exactly. You could play double Manaphy if you want, if you really have to. And I don't think Lugia is going to be playing Cancel Clone anytime soon, where they're just going to go like, they're not going to gust your Manaphy, Cancel Clone you, and then double Amazing Shot. No, it's not going to happen.
They can, but they're not going to get a turn to Archeops.
Yeah.
Right. If they do that, good for them. They deserve it.
Exactly. yeah. If they want to go all,
Yeah,
they wanna do the
you
hard
can
work.
have this one. You earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see where the meta goes. I mean, we got LAIC coming up next weekend. That's going to dictate what does well in Toronto. There's still a lot of other decks in the format, stuff like Palkia, Reggie's. I don't know how Arceus favors in the format, but Arceus is still there. Of course, Lugia still the BDIF. And I think going into LAIC, if your deck doesn't beat Lugia, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? So do you have any kind of final thoughts on any of the Silver Tempest stuff at all?
I think you mentioned someone mentioned something about what beats Reggie Alecki Vigavolt. I think the answer is actually Lugia.
Really?
Like from what I've seen, if Lugia goes first and just gets the 2 in the discard, it just wins. Like
Right.
It's
too much.
Because then
You
you
just
don't
don't
really
have an
need
answer.
anything after that.
Yeah.
right, exactly. Like Dunsparce makes it fine, but even without Dunsparce, you're still kind of just out trading them.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
just
because
the
I
thing
don't
to
think
keep in
they're
mind.
even. I don't think they're one-shotting with paralyzing bolt until what they have.
You need 2 lucky and
Well,
the
2
choice
lucky
belts.
2
VMAX is
Lucky and a
out.
Bell. Yeah, or 3 a Lucky.
Yeah, so they're still
Yeah.
not. Yeah, so they're still not item locking you and one-shotting unless they have all that.
Yeah, well, especially if Lugia's got the V-Guard energy on too, makes it even tankier. It's 3
Yeah,
times 10
exactly.
HP, and yeah, then the Vigavolt struggles against that. Vigavolt is definitely an interesting deck, though, where I think it does have a good matchup against, like, Lost Box, because you just, the
Right.
whole
For
deck
sure.
is items. Yeah, it's very easy to cheese him out of the game. But, like, other than that, I mean, you have, like, that 50-50 shaky Lugia matchup, which you would think is free, but, yeah, like you said, it's definitely not free. I think Vigavolt struggles against, like, Arceus decks, too. If Arceus decks ever make a splash, like, Arceus just runs over Vigavolt. So, yeah, Vigavolt could be one of those, like, Hopium, like, will it work type of decks, and then kind of falls flat. Or it might be okay, I don't know. But I do think Vigavolt is in a weird spot where maybe they have to figure out a good way to beat something like Lugia. Also, I don't think Vigavolt has a good answer to something like Miltank, which is, like, another card that autos that matchup. I've played against 2 Vigavolt decks where I had a Miltank in my deck, and I literally, like, they went down to 1 prize remaining, and I literally could not play the game. I couldn't play any of my items, but I just literally just put a Miltank in play, and I just had more cards in the deck than they did, and then I just won the game because they just decked down. I'm like, oh, yeah, you may go down to 1 prize remaining, but I'm still going to win because you can't deal with my Miltank. So maybe it's more of a meme high roll style deck, and maybe it's just not as good against stuff like, Lugia, and its only good matchup is Lost Box.
If we're going to talk about the pink elephant in the room, Mew VMAX is still stupidly good. Everyone's been on the DTE build, and now the fusion energies are kind of coming back. And Mew is still, like, just absolutely insane, though. Like, I think Cal just, got, like,
Got 9th.
9th?
Yeah, something like that.
It's just insane. I mean, Lost City, I think, is obviously a must, and because that does destroy so many matchups.
Yeah, and then Mew still has, like, Path to, like, even have an out to Drapion. Because you could put, like, Drapion, you could put 2 Drapions in your deck. You'd be like, oh, I win against Mew, and then Mew, like, still has,
And they can
like, the
Path
Lost City.
Roxanne you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mew's just on another power level. It's crazy because, like, the Forest Steel Stone being bugged kind of makes it worse on PTCGO, but the deck is
But
still
it's
just
still
that
broken.
good. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. And once, I guess, Forest Steel Stone gets unpatched, then it'll be even more crazier. So, yeah, Mew is definitely good. It's maybe even better than Lugia to a degree, where Mew has a good Lugia matchup. I mean, Mew can donk a Lugia before they set up. That's one way to beat Lugia, is just donk their Lugia. And if you don't have another one down, then okay, I win. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely BDIF status for sure. It might be the play for LAIC, to be honest. It might be the
Could
play.
be.
Yeah,
You know what
especially
I
the
hit
Beanbug.
on the ladder
What?
earlier
Yeah.
was a Galarian Wheezing deck that played Boost Shake.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
Mhm.
went first, and Boost shook me.
Yep.
It's getting
I
a lot
just
better because
scooped.
people are cutting boss.
Yeah. Wasn't
I
there
just
like a
scooped.
wasn't there like a Wheezing Mew deck that like saw play at the end of the Lost Origin
Yes.
format?
Yes.
Like, what's up with that?
I don't think anything.
Ability lock.
Yeah, more like, is it like a meme or is it like a legit way to play Mew? That's what I'm like concerned. Like,
I
don't
think
know.
Calling it a
definitely
meme and
me.
just leaving it.
Yeah.
I think it was like one person did well with it, then everyone was like, "Oh my god, let's try it for like 3 tournaments," and then like no one's played it since because they
Yeah.
realized like, "Hey, this is like if you
It's
want
Mew,
a
but-
good way to play Mew, let's just not do it this way."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot to wrap it up, though. Alex, where can we find you on social media? Do you have any coaching plugs you want to plug?
Sure. Sure. At A Schemanske on Twitter. I'm on Medify and I write on Substack. If you find me on Twitter, all of those things are either in my bio or in my pinned tweet. So check me out there. They're all paid, but support me. It's great. It's good value. Yeah.
You could get coaching from the #1 player in North America.
Yep. We will catch you all later on episode number 17 next week. And who will be our next guest? Who knows? Maybe the winner of LEIC. Who knows? All right. Alex, you want to win LEIC?
I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
For episode 17.
Mm-hmm. Well, alrighty then. I think that'll wrap things up. We will catch you all on another episode. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with PTCGO Store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
PokeX Word, the best place to get your fill of Pokemon-inspired puzzles. New puzzles are posted every day, and they recently launched a new Guess That Pokemon puzzle, which is a ton of fun to play. Go check them out at pokexword.com and be sure to follow them on Twitter for your chance to win a ton of PTCGO codes every month.
Check out the Late Night Series Season 6, brought to you by myself, Zach Lesage, and the Shuffle Squad. We're going to be running a bunch of sick events for the Pokemon community, and they start on August 30th. So one thing you might be noticing here is that there's an EU time and an NA time. We have one at 12 p.m. Eastern, which works out to about 5 p.m. in London. And then we have one at 7 p.m. Eastern, which should help out a lot of players on the West Coast play in this event. That being said, we still have a lot of cool things going on. Expect similar prizing that we've had for other Late Night Series events. Expect better staffing, expect better tournament experiences, and of course we do have a stream going up for this season as well, and I will be streaming the event on Twitch. That being said, we have the whole season up on the Play Limitless website. Late Night 51 all the way through 70 runs until we hit the Invitational on November 5th. So check that out, sign up today, and support Zach Lesage Events and the Shuffle Squad. See you there.